In this video, I'm going to share everything that you need to know about the IELTS exam. So if you're preparing to attend university or take up a new career or immigrate to a new country, this will provide you with all the information necessary to make sure that you get the score you need and fully prepare for the IELTS exam. So let's get started, and we'll start with what is IELTS? Well, IELTS is short for International English Language Testing System, and it's simply a test to assess your level of English ability if you want to study or work or immigrate to another country, an English-speaking country. And it is a test of your English language ability. And what is being tested is your ability to communicate in English. But what's really important to know that whether you're taking the academic test or the general version of the IELTS exam, both reflect everyday situations. So the academic test really isn't academic in the sense of other tests that you might have taken at university or in high school or on previous occasions. And this test is also suitable for all backgrounds, no matter where you're from. It's a fair and honest test that will not be determined by where you live now or where you're planning to go. So it's a very fair and honest test of your English language ability, and it reflects things that you already know. You don't have to study new topics and subjects for the IELTS exam, because it's simply a test to measure your ability to communicate in English. And as I just mentioned, there are two versions of the test. There's the academic version and the general version. And today I'm going to be focusing on the academic version, but it's important to know that in the general test and the academic test, the listening sections and the speaking sections are identical. So if you're taking the general test, you still may want to follow this presentation right through to the end, because it will give you valuable information and help you understand more about the IELTS exam. So the first thing to ask is, what band score do I need on the IELTS exam? And this is a very important question to ask, and it's the first question that you should ask. If you're planning to attend university, for example, in Canada where I live, or in the UK or Australia, it's important to find out from the university that you're planning to attend the score that they require. And this is so important because you don't want to take the IELTS exam or book your test first and then hope to find a university that will accept you. You won't get into the university of your choice that way. Choose the university that you want to attend and make sure you understand the score that's required to get into that university. If you're going abroad to work for another organization or another company, again, check and find out exactly what score you need to be successful in getting that job. And if you're planning to immigrate, again, find out the score required. This is the most important step before doing anything with the IELTS exam. There's 4 sections, and on each section, whether it's writing, speaking, reading, or listening, you get a score out of 9. Okay, there's no pass or fail in the IELTS exam. You receive a score based on a 9-point system. And then once you have your score in each of the 4 individual sections, this is put together and averaged out for your overall band score. Now, when you are thinking about attending university, here's just another little tip. When you're finding out what score you need to get into university, there are some universities that simply require an overall band score. Most universities in Canada require a band score of 6.5 for an undergraduate degree. But many universities also require a minimum of 6 in each individual section. So if you need an overall band of 6.5, also make sure you find out what's the minimum score that you could get in an individual section. Because even if you get an 8 in listening, but only a 5.5 in writing, and your overall score is a 7, you still will not be accepted into university if you don't have the minimum score required for each section. So that's important to know. Do your homework and your research before you even start preparing for IELTS. Make sure you understand exactly the score you need for the situation that you're going into. I can't tell you how important that is as your very first step. Now, the test format, there are 4 sections that are being tested: your writing skills, your reading skills, your listening skills, and speaking skills. And as I just mentioned, in the general test and the academic test, these 4 skills are being measured. In the academic and general, the listening and the speaking sections are identical. But there are some differences in the writing and reading sections of these tests. Today I'm focusing on academic, but if you want to find out more information about the general, just leave a comment along or send me a message, and I'll be happy to steer you in the right direction to find out more information about that. So the total exam time is 2 hours and 45 minutes, regardless of the format that you take. The writing section is 60 minutes, and you're required to complete 2 tasks. And as we go along, I'll explain these in more detail. The listening section, you have 30 minutes to answer 40 questions. And in the reading section, you have 60 minutes to answer 40 questions. And then the speaking test, which is a face-to-face speaking test and conversation with an examiner, is anywhere from 11 to 14 minutes. And it's a 3-part conversation with this examiner. And that can take place on the same day as the rest of your exam. But in some situations and in some countries, it could be taken on a separate day. So make sure when you're booking your test that you're clear on the schedule and details for your exam. And in some countries and in some situations now, this face-to-face speaking test could also be done via a Zoom call. So just make sure. The most important thing is always find out exactly what you need to know, the details, when you're planning to take your test. And they're all available on the official websites, the British Council, IDP, and Cambridge. Those are the official sites for the IELTS exam. So let's talk about the writing section first. There are 2 tasks. In the academic IELTS exam, task number 1 is where you're given a graph, a table, a chart, or a diagram, and you're simply asked to describe and summarize and explain the information in your own words. In other words, you just report on what you see in the diagram or graph or chart. You can describe and explain the data. You might describe the different stages of a process or how something works, or you might simply describe an object or an event. And in task number 1, you should take 20 minutes to complete this task, and then you can move on to task number 2. But here's another little tip. When we talk about task number 2, it's a bigger essay task. And the thing to realize on test day, here's a tip for test day: do task number 2 and put more priority on task number 2 than task number 1, because it's worth twice as many marks as task number 1. So you're given 40 minutes, and in this case, you're writing a 250-word essay, and it's on a general topic, an everyday topic. It won't be an academic topic or a topic that you have to have any prior knowledge of, or a topic that you have to study for. And you'll be required to write this essay and give your point of view, or give your opinion, or solve a problem that's stated in the question. And both tasks in the IELTS academic exam should be written in a little bit of a formal style. We don't want to be too casual, but again, we don't want to be too academic. It's important to know that you're talking about everyday topics, and you can use everyday language. You don't have to be overly technical or academic or have any fancy words. You can talk about these everyday topics in everyday language and just show your ability to communicate as you share your opinion. So that's the writing section of the IELTS exam. To be aware of what exactly you will be tested on, and what is going into their evaluation of your English in the writing section. The first is task achievement. In other words, do you answer the question they're giving you? So you can't pre-memorize any essays or special templates, because you have to respond to the task and the topic that you're given on this occasion. Coherence and cohesion is your ability to structure your essay properly, your paragraphs and your sentences and your overall essay. Lexical resource is just using the vocabulary that you can use to the best of your ability. And grammatical range and accuracy is just making sure that your grammar forms are correct and you're using grammar correctly. So this is an overview of the writing section, what you'll be tested on, and the format. And then we come to the listening section. And usually the listening section is the first section that you'll face on test day. And there are 4 parts to the listening section, and each one contains 10 questions for a total of 40 questions. And in the listening section, you answer the questions as you're listening. And in the listening section, you will hear a recording, and you'll only hear it once. And as you're listening to that recording, you will fill in your answers. So this will test your ability in part 1, by having a conversation between 2 people. And it's just an everyday social context, making an arrangement of some kind, buying tickets to the theater, scheduling a vacation, arranging for a package to be delivered. It's just an everyday social conversation. In section 2, you'll only have one person talking, and they'll be explaining something in a social context. For example, they may be explaining an orientation day for new college students. They may be explaining a facility like a library or a museum, or they may be taking you on a tour of a park or another location. But this is where you'll hear a monologue, one person introducing something and giving you directions. In section 3, you may hear a conversation with up to 4 people, and usually it's in an educational setting, and they'll be working on a project together. They may be planning a research project. They may be doing a project in the community. Whatever it is, it will be a discussion among 4 people. And in the last section, you'll hear again one person speaking, and it will be a more academic subject. But again, it's not something that you need prior knowledge of. It will be something that you can follow along and be able to answer correctly, whether you have any prior knowledge of the subject or not. And this is usually filling in information as you listen to the speaker. So this is the test format for the listening section, 40 questions in 30 minutes, and it's usually the first section that you'll attempt on test day. There are different types of questions. There are 10 different types of questions. And as you plan and prepare for the IELTS exam, you want to make sure that you're aware of and have a strategy for each of these types of questions. And the skills that will be tested will be your ability to understand main ideas, to pick out detailed facts, to hear the opinions and attitudes of other speakers, to recognize the purpose of the communication. Why are the two people speaking together? And just follow along with the ideas and argument that might be presented, for example, in an academic lecture. But again, it's not having prior knowledge. It's just the ability to pick out facts and answer the questions as you hear the answer that you're looking for. Okay, now let's go on to the reading section. The reading section is a section that takes 60 minutes, and you're given 3 sections that each contain a text. And these texts are taken from real books or newspapers or magazines. And the texts, again, are not overly academic. They're from general interest, and they may include diagrams or illustrations. And there will not be any words or technical terms that are too difficult for you. And if there are special words that are unique or too technical, they will provide you with a glossary or a definition of these words. And just a little warning about the reading section. Sometimes you may feel like your reading skills are better than your other skills when it comes to the English language, but don't take the reading section for granted. It's not necessarily the easiest, and in fact, some test takers find this to be one of the most challenging sections in the IELTS exam. And if you're looking for any information or tips when it comes to doing your IELTS exam, whether it's for the reading section or the writing or listening, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I have lots of videos that give very detailed information on handling the different types of questions and facing the challenge of the different sections of the IELTS exam. In the reading section, there are about 14 different types of questions. And again, you'll just want to have a strategy and know the techniques that will help you manage these questions the best. In the test, in the reading section, you'll be tested on your ability to read for a gist, which means just having an overall idea of the text or passage that you're reading, being able to pick out main ideas, and especially being able to pick out and identify key details and information. You may be asked on some questions to understand the inferences or implied meaning of questions and recognize what types of statements are opinions or which type of statements are facts, and maybe even follow the development of an argument. But the key approach to the reading section is to be able to identify key information that you need to answer the question. So again, and I know I keep repeating this, you do not need any prior knowledge of the subject of the text you're reading or the topic. You just need to know how to identify the key information. So let's talk about the speaking section. The speaking section is about 11 to 15 minutes long, and there are 3 parts. In the first part, this is where you meet the examiner, you give your relevant information, and the examiner is just going to ask you some general questions about yourself, about your home, about your family, your interests, your work or studies, or your hobbies. And this is really a conversation in where you can be very relaxed, even though it's a test, because it's just like meeting anybody else for the first time. And the good thing about the speaking section, and I've been saying all along that you don't have to have any prior knowledge or about a subject or topic on the IELTS exam. Well, when it comes to the speaking section, the good news is you are the topic. Every question is about your life and your opinion and your experience, and you are the topic. So you won't have any trouble being an expert on the topic when it comes to the speaking section. So the first 4 or 5 minutes are where you're just being asked personal questions about your life, and it's really where the examiner is just getting to know you a little better and helping you to warm up and prepare for the rest of the test. In part 2 of the speaking section, the examiner is going to give you a cue card, and it's going to have a topic written on it. And then you'll be asked to speak on this topic for 1 to 2 minutes. And then following your talk, the examiner may just ask you 1 or 2 follow-up questions about what you spoke about. And the good thing about this part of the listening test is you are given time to prepare your talk. You'll be given some paper and a pencil where you can make notes, and the cue card itself will give you a clear outline of exactly what it is you're to speak on. And it will be a topic that you'll be very familiar with. It may ask you about a celebration in your family. It might ask you about a gift that you received or gave to someone else. It's a very personal type of topic. And again, you should be able to handle this with confidence and get a good score in this section. And in the speaking section, what you're being tested on is fluency and coherence. In other words, how do you structure your sentences? How do you form your ideas? And I want to just mention here, just to give you a little extra tip about what it really means to be fluent. Speaking fluently and having good fluency is not meaning that you speak without making mistakes or without hesitating. It means that if you do make a mistake or you do say something in a way that you aren't sure you said in the best way, you can repeat yourself and you can correct your mistakes as you go. And that's really what fluency is. It's the ability to correct your mistakes and change and repeat your ideas in a better way as you're speaking, because nobody speaks English perfectly. And even as you're listening to my presentation today, you can hear me repeating things and saying them in different ways, and realizing that maybe I didn't say something the way I wanted to the first time. So I repeat myself. And this is what fluency is. It's just the ability to carry on a conversation and speak naturally and adjust your ideas and the terms that you use as you go. Again, you're being tested on your vocabulary and your grammar and your pronunciation. And again, don't confuse pronunciation with accent. Okay. Depending on the country that you come from, your accent could be very strong. It could be, and maybe not so strong. But the thing to understand is pronunciation is even different among different areas of English, depending on where you come from. So if you listen to somebody from Australia or the United States or the UK, or even someone like me from Canada, we all pronounce things differently. So pronunciation will not be a problem. The main thing is to just make sure that even with your accent, you're speaking clearly and can be understood clearly. So as you prepare, I just want you to understand that you can feel confident and competent. And by the way that you'll feel confident is by making sure that you're fully prepared. You understand everything that you're facing on the IELTS exam, and you understand it so carefully and fully that you won't have any surprises on test day. And that's the best way to feel confident, is to be fully prepared in that way. And the second way to feel fully prepared is to make sure that you understand the techniques and the skills that are required for each type of question and section on the IELTS exam. So I hope you found this video helpful today. I hope it's given you a really good idea of what's involved in the IELTS exam. And if you have any more questions, or you want to find out about particular sections or question types, be sure to subscribe and check out the videos on my YouTube channel. And in the following video after this, you'll see some details about a course that I offer that can really help you make sure that you're fully prepared for the IELTS exam. So make sure you check that out. And I want to wish you all the best on your journey as you prepare for the IELTS exam.